Welcome to this online seminar about membership fees in liberal Jewish communities. This is based on a Sunday seminar originally given in January 2014. My name is Rabbi Anna Gerard. In the past, members of our synagogues paid their membership fees because it was simply the thing to do. People didn't tend to complain or leave the communities for this reason. However, increasingly our communities are struggling because people do not want to pay their membership fees, even though they are not in a situation of hardship, because they think they are too high, and so they either ask for a reduction or leave the community because it is not something that they want to pay towards. In this first section, we're going to talk about the Jewish values behind membership fees and try to think of new ways to think about them and talk about them with people as society changes and membership fees become something that people don't automatically think about paying. We're going to start with some Jewish texts which can be found on handout A. The first one is by Arthur Waskow in Down to Earth Judaism. He talks about money. Why does it provoke in us such anxiety and fear, such extremes of wishful fantasy and nightmares of disaster? These questions, says Waskow, emotional and spiritual as they are, lie beneath the practical and intellectual questions that we usually ask about money. That's why we're starting with Jewish texts and the ideas and values and emotions behind our membership fees, rather than the practical solutions that we could suggest. Money is an emotional topic. When we ask people for membership fees, the decision they're making is not whether or not they can really afford it, but whether or not they value it enough to make that the priority of where they put their money. In today's society, with so many other things for them to spend their time and money on, we have to make sure that we talk about our communities as a thing of value to which they want to contribute. We can't just expect them to anymore. Looking into our Jewish past, we can find a lot of texts that relate to synagogue fees. In the Talmud it says tzedakah is equal in importance to all the other commandments combined. Tzedakah, often thought of as charity, really relates to the idea of justice, the idea that it is our responsibility to create a just society by giving what we can in order that society can support everyone justly. In Exodus we get the idea of terumah, a free will offering. God tells Moses to tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from me, from every person whose heart is so moved. This idea of a free will offering is really what we want to work towards, that people pay their membership fees because their heart is so moved, because they believe in it and they want to do it, not because they get a final demand notice. Back in the Talmud, we're told that all Jews are responsible for one another, that it is our collective responsibility to make sure that we're all okay, and that through the Jewish community we can do this, to ensure that we all have a place to go, a place to feel spiritually connected, and a place to turn to in times of need. The Talmud also tells us that when the community is in trouble, or perhaps needs money to fund its purposes, a person should not say, well, I'm okay, I'll go to my house and I will eat and drink and be at peace with myself. In fact, no matter how easy it is for us to go home and turn our back on the community, the Talmud tells us that we're obligated to support it when it needs our help. These are some of the Jewish values that we could use when talking about membership fees in our communities. Changing the rhetoric and the vocabulary that we use in our letters about membership fees and in articles that we write in our newsletters, and using Jewish texts, is a great way to get people thinking about it differently. Less as a responsibility, another bill, like the gas bill, and more as something that connects to their Jewish identity and their sense of Jewish ethics, values and spirituality. I want to think about the models of our community, because in the past when people paid their membership fees as a matter of course, it was because most people were connected to a religious institution. And the religious institution model, such as a synagogue or a church or a mosque, is the one to which we have tended to put ourselves into. What is the motivation in a religious institution behind people paying their membership fees or their donations to the donation plate or their tithes? At this point, it's interesting to note that tithes in mosques and some churches can be up to 10% of people's annual income. Compare 10% of your annual income to your synagogue membership fees. You might be quite surprised. So what motivates people to pay this money in a religious institution? I pay my dues because it is the right thing to do. I pay my membership fees because I always have. These two reasons have stood us well for many years, and there will still be members in our community who do just this. Some may also pay their shul fees so they can be buried in the Jewish cemetery. But increasingly, and especially with the younger generations, it is not a given that they will belong to a synagogue or pay money towards it, and when they do want to get involved, they find it quite surprising that they're asked to pay so much money. It's not something they have always done, and therefore we have to have a different way of talking to them about why it's something that they should start doing now. So, what are our communities if they're not just religious institutions? Well, you could say that they're a members club. Other clubs might include the Rotary or a golf club, where people pay membership fees. Motivated to pay their membership fees in a members club because it means they can take part in the club and its activities, just as they can in the synagogue. Paying membership fees is one of the responsibilities of belonging to the club. And paying your dues, it gives you the prestige of membership of the club. Certainly in our liberal Jewish communities, it gives people a sense of belonging, a right to come to things, and they do feel a sense of responsibility to paying their membership fees. And in our modern society, where the religious institution model doesn't quite work, this is one that works a lot better. But there's something missing, because in members' clubs, if you can't afford it, then you're not really welcome. And you're only really supporting the activities that are of interest to you, because members' clubs tend to be focused around one particular set of activities for one particular type of person, rather than supporting a broad range of activities for a broad range of ages and needs. Our liberal Jewish communities are members' clubs, but they're also more. A dangerous model that people have started to use in their approach towards our Jewish communities is that of a service provider, much like a private school or a gym, where you pay your rates or your tuition. The motivation in a service provider is very different to that of a Jewish community. I pay a membership fee because I want to make use of the services offered. I pay annual fees because it is cheaper than paying each time I go. I pay dues because I get a high quality of service in return. Well, faced with the challenges of a modern commercialised society, it can be tempting to see ourselves as service providers, and other people certainly will do that. But these are not the values of a Jewish community. These are the values of getting something in return for your money and wondering whether you have got value for money, and if you haven't, going elsewhere or simply turning your back on that particular service provider. In our liberal Jewish communities, we don't want people to be counting the money they're sending us and wondering whether it's worth their while if they only go to shul 3 times a year, in the way that we might think about the gym, and whether it's worth our while to be paying all that money when we only really work out once a month. So yes, our liberal Jewish communities are religious institutions, of course, and they are also members' clubs, and to some degree they are service providers in that we do provide our members with certain services. But I wonder if there is something else, another model that really better suits the liberal Jewish communities, that more holistically covers everything that we are, and that provides us with a rhetoric and a way of speaking about membership fees and the value and responsibility of paying them, that avoids the tradition of the religious institution, that avoids the elitism of a members' club, and also avoids the commercialisation of a service provider. I want to suggest that liberal Jewish communities fit into a similar category to that of the National Trust. In both of these establishments, there is a holistic motivation behind why we pay our membership fees, both for ourselves and for others. Something that people might say is, I pay my dues because I believe in the organisation and what they do. I pay my fees because it is a commitment I make to my community. I donate this money because being a supportive member is something I value. In this model, we value what we are getting out of it, but we also value what is happening in and by that institution, and we value the concept of supporting it. So much like the National Trust, where we belong because we want to go to National Trust properties, but also because we want them to be there for other people and future generations, and because we believe in the work that they are doing to preserve these properties, and because it feels good to be part of supporting something that other people also value. This is the model that we have in our liberal Jewish communities, but often the rhetoric that we use around membership fees does not reflect it. So let's break down this National Trust model and think about all the elements of it that apply to our liberal Jewish communities, and from that take some of the vocabulary that we could be using in our communications with our membership about money. The National Trust model. The organisation supports something that it values and ensures it is available to all. Members are those who want to benefit from the thing of value and also ensure it is there for all. Membership fees are not dependent on usage. Non-members can pay according to usage but are encouraged to join. Members feel proud of their contribution and pleased with the benefit it offers them and others. I want to leave you with these ideas. The National Trust model, a different way of approaching membership fees and membership of liberal Jewish communities. The idea of moving away from financial terminology and towards Jewish terminology, tzedek, justice, truma, a free will offering, value, commitment, belief. How might the National Trust model apply to your liberal Jewish community?